Hey there, it's Trisha with Easy Emini Trade, and I'm going to go over a couple of the setups that occurred yesterday, which is Thursday, using the new Renko setup. I had a setup a few years ago that worked really well, but in the current environment, we've had to do some tweaking of the inputs and kind of fine tune it. So Gordon actually has been helping me with that, and he's done a really good job. So anyway, I'll go over it briefly right now, and then I'll do a webinar on the setup on Wednesday at 4 p.m. And I actually have a second setup also using the Renko. It's a lot more aggressive. It might not be for everybody, but it's a way that you can scalp. So I'll go over that on Wednesday as well. So let's get started here. So this is Ninja 8, and I'm using the Ninja Renko, and I'll share the templates that I have for Ninja 8 on Wednesday during the webinar, and I'm going to try to get the study collection together for Sierra as well, so I'll have that to share. So this is using the regular standard indicators on the left, and then this is Gordon's chart on the right that he programmed some indicators for, so for easy visuals. Not necessary, and it's not available quite yet. We still are tweaking it, but this will be available on my site by the time the webinar happens on Wednesday if anybody is interested. But like I said, it's not necessary. You can just as easily use the standard indicators. Gordon's will color the background here so we know right off the bat what direction we're looking. So if it's blue, we're looking for longs. If it's this pink color, we're looking for shorts. And what that translates into is if the histogram is above 0, you can see it here, we're looking for longs, and if it's below, we're looking for shorts. Not necessarily, you don't even need to have the lines from the MACD on there, but they're helpful for spotting divergence if you're somebody who likes to watch for divergence. And then Gordon's indicator will mark the entries, and it will mark the most recent with the entry price. It's basically a tick above the bar that closes above the super trend, or a tick below the bar that closes below, but it will only plot the most recent. So as you notice back here where I was just looking, we have the arrows showing the entry points, but the price markers are not there anymore. They're only going to be on the current bar. And then the other thing that Gordon's package will do is it will color the bars based on the MACD being in line for, above 0 or below 0. So here you can see they're red. That means the MACD histogram is below 0. Here they're green. MACD histogram is above 0. And then he's got reversal bars here that color white for down and this orangey color for up. Again, not necessary to have, but just anything that makes it easier is helpful. Okay, so on with the setup. So here is the NQ from yesterday, and as always, you're going to want to be aware of support and resistance areas. So we have an area of support right here around 40.75, 41 area. So this entry here would be a tick below the low, which would be 44.75, which basically this would get you about 3.5 points. Here, as always, I like to have the 200 EMA and the 90 EMA on my charts. So this red moving average that you see above price here is the 200. So anything that you do into that, especially on a larger chart, is always has a possibility of it reacting in that area. So here we get a buy, and that entry would be literally into that 200 period moving average, and the entry would be 54.25. It does trade up to 57, so you still could have gotten a little something out of it, but you know going in that you're going into a resistance area. And then you can see the same thing here on Gordon's charts, same exact entries. It's just taking the guesswork out of what your entry would be, because at the time this will plot the exact entry price here. And here we have another short. It's valid, histograms below 0, so we could look to enter in at 50.75, and we know that support, the main support is down here around 41, but in looking at this, I would at least be aware of this little area here where it last reacted as a possible area of a stall. So that would give us down to 46.75. So if we didn't, ride it all the way down to 41, you got in at 50.75 and you were looking for a reaction, somewhere down here around that 46 area. And then, like I said, if you wanted to hold out and see if it would hit the next target area, then obviously you got a lot more out of this than you anticipated. Now you could always take a pullback when you get one of these reversal bars with the tail. And what I mean by that is, like, here's a reversal bar, and it's a lot easier to see on Gordon's, but here it's hitting this moving average, and this is a whole moving average, and I'm using that for the second setup that we can use on Renko. I'm not going to go over that right now because I need to fine tune a couple things out of it, but it works really well, and I'll go over the settings on everything on Wednesday. But here you can see you get this reversal bar hitting these moving averages. You have the whole moving average, you have the 90 moving average, and even if you wanted to take it on this one, either way, I like this a little bit better because it's actually tagging that moving average that actually has the slope. And if you look at Gordon's, you could see we actually have the bar coloring white. So we could look to take that as a pullback as long as the histogram agrees. And we still would have to be aware that we could still get stuck in this area before ever getting to this 41. It's just like, any charts that you trade, whatever type of chart you trade, you're always aware of the possible reaction areas. So this way you could be ready to take targets at that area, move your stop to that area, or even decide if you want to attempt to trade in that area. So here's another buy here. This one here, everything's in line. You can see histogram above 0. The entry would be at 43.75, and in looking at this chart, we would look at this area here above us where we've got our 200 as a possible reaction area, and that works out just fine. So that would be what? Entry 43.75, and basically that was up there, let's say around 51. Yeah, 51. So again, you don't have to write it the whole way. You can decide what you want to use as your targets. You could use an arbitrary number. You could use a resistance area. And then here's Gordon's here doing the same thing. You can see his bars are coloring green way down here because of the MACD being above 0 at that point, but the entry would be up here above that super trend. Not saying, and like I said, that second setup that we're working on would get you in much sooner. It would get you in down here. All right, next one here, close below. So the low of this bar is 39, so we'd be looking at 38.75, and we've got our histogram plotting below 0. It's just starting right there, and you can see it here on Gordon's as well. And then we look to support in this area. In this instance, we'd be looking over here, and that would be the low of the day as our target area. And then obviously it continues lower, and this is the previous day's low right here in orange, and that would be, if it gets to the low of the day here, then you'd be looking at the low of the previous day. Now, what creates the histogram is when your MACD lines cross. So you see the green crosses below the red. That's going to get the MACD histogram plotting below 0, and when the line crosses above, that gets the histogram plotting above 0. So the setup works really well. If you've never traded a Renko before, it's a manufactured bar. The open is a false open, so it's a little bit weird in how the formula is formulated, but the reason why a lot of people like it is because it reduces the noise of the back and forth, and sometimes it requires some patience to sit through it and wait on your targets, because it's not any time-based type of bar. It's going to take however long it takes, just like a tick bar. If you use a tick chart, however, like let's say for example you're using 1,000 tick chart, each bar represents 1,000 trades, so you're not going to get a new bar until 1,000 trades has transpired, and then you get a new bar. So that could take a second, it could take 5 minutes, right? You just don't know. Same situation here with the Renko. So if you want more information on the setups, the webinar is Wednesday at 4, and you can go to my site and get the information on that and register, and then everybody will get the templates and the slides, and probably give you a couple days in the room as well, so you can we can work on it together so you can see it real time. All right, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, and like I said, I will go over all the settings on everything on this chart during the webinar. Okay, have a great day, you guys, and we'll chat with you soon.